Ba-doom-bop, ba-doom-bop, ba-doom-ba-dee-doom,
Lasagna,
ba-doom-bop,
lasagna,
ba-doom-bop,
lasagna,
ba-doom-bop,
ba-do-ba-do-boom.
ba-doo-ba-dee-doo, ba-doom-bop, 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 ba-doom-ba-dee-doo-doom, ba-doom-bop, ba-doom-ba-dee-doom, ba-doom-bop, 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 ba-doom-ba-dee-doom,
Lasagna
ba-doom-bop,
has
ba-doom-bop,
layers of
ba-doom-bop,
noodles.
ba-doom-ba-dee-doom,
It has
ba-doom-bop,
sauce made
ba-doom-bop,
of
ba-doom-ba-dee-doom,
tomatoes.
ba-doom-bop,
It has
ba-doom-bop,
lots of cheese
ba-doom-bop,
we
ba-doom-bop,
cut.
ba-doom-ba-dee-doom,
We put it
ba-doom-bop,
in the
ba-doom-bop,
oven, and what do we
ba-doom-bop,
get?
ba-doom-ba-dee-doom,
Lasagna.
ba-doom-bop, 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 ba-doom-ba-dee-doom, ba-doom-bop, 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 ba-doom-ba-dee-doom, ba-doom-bop, ba-doom-bop.
So today we are making lasagna. Yeah, we're making lasagna today. Pretty awesome, right? So we're gonna talk
Does
about
lasagna make you sing like that?
apparently.
Woo! You can sing like us if you eat lasagna.
So we're gonna talk a little bit about lasagna history.
Does everyone know what lasagna is? Should we start with that?
Okay, let's start with that.
Lasagna.
Lasagna.
We know what that is,
you can
right?
use the word
layers.
lasagna or lasagne, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Or layers of noodles and sauce and some other stuff.
Yes, so lasagna is usually layers of sauce, tomato sauce, marinara sauce, or some type of sauce, noodles, and cheese.
Lots of cheese.
Which is what you see typically now with lasagna. But what's interesting is everyone thinks that lasagna is an Italian dish.
I did.
It's not.
My mom did.
I think most Italians,
You did.
most people in the entire world,
Our dog did.
our dog. We don't have a dog.
Oh, well, most people do.
Think
And
that
dogs.
it's an Italian dish, but it's not. It didn't originally come from Italy. It actually originally came from Greece.
Now, when I think of lasagna, I think of Italian flavors and stuff. But was that lasagna totally different? It was just
so
layered stuff.
In ancient Greece, it was
And it was 4,500 years ago, right?
It was a while ago, yes. But they called it laganon, and basically it was just layers of pasta and sauce, pasta sauce, layers of pasta sauce. And laganon was more about the method of the dish, which is that was one of the very first pasta dishes they think, or pastas was just the flat noodles, and.
I just thought of something.
What?
Not a lot, but some of the most popular Greek dishes are layered.
Yes.
Whoa!
Yeah, that is true.
Did you ever
But I
think
mean,
about
I think lots of people have been layering or doing some type of version, I would assume. But this in particular with the pasta and the sauce came from Greece. So it's not so much about, the name doesn't really come from the ingredients that are in it, it's the method, the layering aspect. And then many years later, that's when tomatoes came. So
Yeah, they didn't even have tomatoes until the
Yeah.
16th century,
in
right?
ancient Greece, they didn't have tomatoes. So what the sauce was, who knows? But
Oh, I do.
what?
Greek sauce,
What's Greek sauce?
whatever they made.
Oh.
Because they were Greek, so it was Greek sauce.
So, the actual lasagna that we know of didn't come until many, many years later because tomatoes didn't exist in Italy until the 16th century.
Yeah.
So, what is lasagna to Italians? Well, it depends on where you're from.
Like a lot of places around the world, they have common foods, but they differ depending on where they're at. So some places that are more close to the ocean might do a lot more with seafood and other kinds of fresh ingredients. Places that are up in the mountains might do different things with what they're able to grow up in the mountains. Some places might use more meat because that's what they're used to in those areas. Some places might use less meat or less animal products because that's what they're used to. I know in Italy, it's kind of a north to south kind of thing, right?
Yeah, so in the north, they would have more of a they would put either spinach or vegetables in their dough for the pasta. They would have cheese and a meat sauce, and then they would have like a ragu sauce, and then they would also have a bechamel sauce, and then top it with some parmesan. I mean, that's the north. In the south, especially in Naples, it was very meat heavy.
Naples.
Naples.
That's where pizza came from, right?
Yes. So
Ish, maybe, sort of. That's what we think.
so it's just, very meat heavy in the south, a little bit lighter, but I guess richer with the sauce, the bechamel sauce.
That's interesting.
It just kind of changes. Now, also, what's different is the noodles. Up in the north, you have flat noodles. Down south, you have the ripples. Now, health benefits. Let's think about that. So it kind of
The question of, is lasagna healthy? Well, that is up in the air. And what we mean by that is,
It varies.
that's like saying, is pizza healthy? Or is that wrap you made healthy? Or even, is that salad you made healthy? It totally depends on what you put on top.
That's true. So if you are using
Or in lasagna, what you put in the layers. I was thinking of salad.
So now also if you make your own ingredients, like you make your own tomato sauce, if you make your own pasta, if you make your own cheese, the health benefits are going to be different. Also,
And you
if
know
put
exactly
meat,
what's in it.
that's right. If you put a lot of meat as opposed to vegetables, it's going to change the health content. It all really depends. Now, durum wheat is a specific type of wheat that they usually use to make
Pasta.
pasta. That's right. And
So stuff without durum wheat, we talked about this in our noodle class, but stuff without durum wheat is noodles.
Yes.
And stuff with durum wheat is pasta.
it's pasta. So that's going to have its own set of
Pasta,
health benefits,
noodles.
protein,
Pasta, noodles.
and fiber. Then tomatoes.
Hey, Jess.
Yes.
Tell them what fiber helps with.
It helps you. Boop. Tomatoes have tons of lycopene, which
Lycopene.
which helps with all different.
Lycopene. Boom, 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 boom. Lycopene.
So it just kind of depends on what you put in it. So if you put lots of veggies in it, you're going to have tons of vitamins and minerals. If you don't put as much, you're not going to have as many, but you're still going to have some.
Yeah.
Dairy, the cheese, it's dairy, has calcium. So it really
It just depends.
It just depends.
You can make it as healthy as you want. You can make it the way you want and the way your family wants. That's what this is all about. It's the same as pizza. It's preference. So we've made one that's pretty simple, and we kind of feel like it's a nice base. And we like it just the way it is, but it's always something you can add to, and we'll talk about that while we're making it. But
and we're adding some ingredients that elevate the health part.
and the flavor.
Let's get straight to our lasagna because there's quite a few steps, and just follow very closely. We're going.
Don't be overwhelmed. There's a lot of ingredients, but it's one of those, once you do it, you'll say, that was pretty easy, actually.
We're going to be making our sauce. Check out the ricotta recipe if you want to make your own ricotta. Let's get started.
All right.
Time to make our lasagna. We have broken this up into 3 different categories: the sauce, the cheese, and the toppings. So we're going to actually do each part by itself, so we don't have too much stuff on the counter. It's not overly crowded and a little confusing.
That's sort of the most overwhelming thing about making something like lasagna, is there's a lot of steps and there's a lot of different ingredients and tools and stuff.
different parts.
So if you break it up into the 3, like Jess was saying, and you only have what you need for each step out, then it's really simple. So we only have tools for our sauce. We only have ingredients for our sauce.
For right now. Tomato puree. We are using
Puree?
Puree.
What is puree?
So there's a difference between tomato puree and tomato sauce. Tomato sauce is a lot thinner, and tomato puree, not only is it thicker, but it also has a more concentrated tomato flavor. We are using 1 28-ounce can of tomato puree.
Now you could use tomato sauce, but it's going to be a little more watery. So you'd want to add a little tomato paste because you don't want things to be too watery when you're making lasagna.
Definitely
not good. Then we're going to do 6 baby Bella mushrooms. I like to take the stems off first, okay? And they're usually around the same size, so don't worry about it. You can cut the stems. I took a few off already, or you could just pull them out like that. And Jess likes to eat them.
I like eating them.
They're not bad. It's just sometimes if mushrooms have been sitting around, they can be kind of hard, and it makes it a little tricky to cut. So I like things to be nice and simple and flat when I'm cutting. All right, so we are going to mince our 6 baby Bella mushrooms. Now, the reason we're mincing, which means to cut it really small, is we're gonna have it be part of our sauce. We're not cooking it ahead of time. Part of simplifying this recipe is not to have too many steps. A lot of lasagna recipes, they'll cook the meat or the mushrooms or whatever they're putting in it, and then they'll put it in the sauce. We're not doing that. We're skipping that. So it's gonna cook just fine because it's really small, all right? So we're gonna do a little tunnel cut, and we're just gonna start cutting it into smaller pieces to break it down, okay? Then we're gonna turn it, and we'll do a claw hold, and we'll cut it into smaller pieces that way. And I'm just pushing down the knife very carefully, okay? Now, this is when you start mincing it. You put your hand on the top of the knife, leave the tip of the knife down on the board, and you're not in a rush. We're not racing, we're not doing anything, we're just up and down.
It's the same way as when we've minced garlic,
Same
or
exact thing.
shallots or ginger. It's the tips down, your hands on top, and you're kind of just doing a back and forth motion.
Yep, and every once in a while you can put it together, kind of regroup, you know, start from a fresh little pile of pieces.
So most marinaras do not have mushrooms in it. This is our way of adding some more health benefits and more flavor.
And texture to
And
it.
texture.
It's nice to have some texture. And this is the part where you would brown some ground meat or some sausage, and you could put that in. But we like just putting mushrooms in ours. And you could do both, meat and mushrooms. Look at how fine that is. Yep. All right, there's one.
All right.
5 more. Ready? Oh, all right. So we're just about done. It's actually more fun than I thought doing all this.
Because he's practicing his knife skills. But what you could also do is stick all the mushrooms, the garlic, and the onion in a food processor and chop it up. It would be really, really easy.
I created a mountain of mushrooms.
Next is 1 yellow onion. Actually, we're only using 1/4 of this, so 1/4 of a yellow onion.
And we said medium yellow onion because some are really big and some are really small.
Yeah.
So that's a medium yellow onion. So I'm using 1/4 of it, but I want to get part of the bottom off so I have a nice flat surface. So I'm just going to cut that off. And then I'm going to cut it in half. Woo! Keeping my fingers way out of the way and just doing a nice tunnel cut. All this stuff.
I know it has a lot. It's
Back-
just like the garlic.
Back on the flat side, another tunnel cut right down the middle. And then there's my 1/4 because 4 quarters is a whole onion. So I'm going to peel off the outside. Whoa, that's a lot easier, Jess, after we cut it. Sometimes if you ever try to peel that before you cut
Sean
it.
just has a hard time
Ooh.
peeling onions and garlic.
So there's a lot of different ways we can do this. But again, we're mincing it. We just want small pieces, and we want to get to those small pieces in a safe way. So I'm just going to do a tunnel cut, and I'm going to cut some slices like this. You guys can find a way that might work for you a little better, but that seems to be a pretty safe way. Then we're going to do more slices like that on top. Okay, and then I'm going to turn it, and if it's too high, you can always take part of it off. And then I'm just going to do kind of the same thing that we did before. And if some of you love measurements and you're wondering, well, how much onion
Is a 1/4 of an onion?
Yeah, it's about 1/3 of a cup, maybe a 1/2 cup depending on the onion. But We like to just say a quarter because it's easy, because then you don't cut a bunch of onion.
And then measure it and then realize you can't use all of it. Hold on, I'm trying
It's
to
okay.
get some of the...
I'm stopping because she's putting her hands in there. So if you guys are ever
Yeah.
grabbing anything, just wait, stop cutting, and then you can keep going.
To close my eyes while you do that.
Okay, just stay there though, okay?
Woo-hoo.
One more step.
Okay, and then we're going to do 4 cloves of garlic.
4?
Yeah.
That's one more than 3.
So 4 garlic cloves, and we're gonna mince them as well.
Same thing, but you guys have probably seen this before. Garlic, the easiest way to get it out of the peel if you don't need to keep it whole,
Is to smash it.
smash the garlic. And the reason you need to keep it whole sometimes is if you're doing nice little slices and you want them to look pretty. This isn't going to be pretty after we smash it. And if you don't want to use your knife, you can use a can. You can use like a bowl or something like that. So the good thing about smashing it also is it flattens it, so it's super easy to start that mincing process.
I'm blinking a lot because the onion's still burning.
You know,
my
Jess,
eyes.
normally it bothers me, but for some reason right now it's not.
It's not?
Maybe I have super onion eyes.
Onion eyes?
I have super onion eyes.
Well, I definitely-
Nothing can. Oh gosh, I'm crazy.
I definitely don't.
It's getting me. I was
Every
just
time-
talking about it not, and then it started to.
We really need to get those glasses. Do any of you have those onion glasses? Do they actually work? I've
We
always
should try them
wondered.
out. Let's get them and try them out.
Some goggles.
Yep. They have like ventilation on the sides, I think, so your
So-
eyes can breathe.
Okay, so he's going to add the garlic, and we're going to add our spices and herbs. So we are using a tablespoon, not a tablespoon, sorry.
Woo!
I know. It's the onion. It messed with
Woo!
my brain. It's a teaspoon of dried oregano, a teaspoon of dried basil, a teaspoon of salt, and a half a teaspoon of pepper. And then we're just gonna mix it all up. Our sauce is done. Now we're gonna move on to our cheese.
We're on the cheese step. This is my
Cheese.
favorite step. Step 2, cheese.
2 cups of ricotta.
Wait, hold on. I want to show everyone at home
Oh, our beautiful
our
ricotta.
beautiful ricotta, and Jess hasn't tried it yet. I made a special batch just for this show. And we have a whole show on how to make this. It's super
It's
easy.
really, really good.
Isn't it amazing?
It's really, really good.
Isn't it like the best thing you've
It
ever
is,
had?
and we need a new spoon.
Oh!
So we're using 2 cups of ricotta. We're using homemade, but you can buy ricotta easily at the store. Then we're gonna use 3 cups of shredded mozzarella.
Wait, hold on. I made this morning. No, I'm just
No, you
kidding.
didn't.
We use shredded mozzarella. You want to try to find low moisture shredded mozzarella because then it won't have too much liquid in it.
Like we've said over and over and over, you do not want too much liquid with your lasagna. It'll just make everything really soggy.
Same with pizza. When you're making pizza, you use low moisture mozzarella most of the time. All right, so
Add it to the bowl.
3 cups.
3 cups. Then we're gonna do a half a cup of parsley. We're gonna chop it. Now, parsley is one of my favorite herbs, and I guess part of it.
I didn't know that.
You didn't know that?
No.
It's partially because of just the memories of having parsley in salt water during Passover when I was a kid, and I really loved that. So I think
That's really
I think
cool.
that's why. So just like most things, when we're mincing, now we're not mincing this, but chopping herbs is you cut it the same way as you would mince. So tip down, hand on top, and just kind of going through.
And you're just kind of breaking them up so they're not big leaves. You don't want it to get too small. You want a lot of color in the cheese. It makes it look really great. Cutting it also makes them a little more fragrant and gets the flavors going. That looks beautiful, Jess. And I can smell it.
I have some pieces that just won't.
It's okay. I like
Stay in
that.
there.
Leave them.
Ta-da!
Ta-da!
Okay, so it's just a rough chop. Not all the pieces got chopped up small. It
It
doesn't,
doesn't
really
matter. You just want to make
We're
sure you don't
mixing
have
it.
stems in there.
All right, so that's in there. Next is we are doing, here I'm gonna move this here. We are doing a tablespoon of olive oil.
La da 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 da. Da, 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 da.
We're doing a half a teaspoon of salt. So like before, our tomato sauce has salt. We're also putting salt in this. And then we're doing a quarter of a teaspoon of pepper.
Now, if you're wondering, why don't you just put all the salt and pepper just in one thing or the other? It's because the flavors in the cheese mixture is going to be kind of a layer, and you want to bring as much of the flavor out as you can in each layer, and the salt brings a lot of the flavor out of the parsley and the cheese and all that.
So also another thing that I want to make sure everyone knows is be really careful with salt. Some people really like things a lot saltier, and you may be tempted to add more salt. I would make this the way that we said to make it, or we say to make it, and then if it doesn't seem like there's enough salt, you can always add salt.
You can always add salt, and remember, if you've looked at the recipe, the top has a bunch of Parmesan cheese, which is salty too. So bumper sticker time. I don't know what's on it, but we need to have something about this salt thing.
Too much salt, no good.
Or you can always add more later, but you can't take away if you put too much in. Is that good?
No.
You can always add more later.
Too long. Who's gonna sit there reading that bumper sticker?
Put it together. Make it small.
Too much salt, not great.
But if you want more, add it late. Oh!
That works. All right, so just gonna mix it all up. Once it's all mixed, then we can move on to assembling our lasagna.
Yeah, it's super important when you're mixing this that you don't rush it. You want to get that oil all throughout. You want to get the salt all throughout.
And you also want to really mix the two cheeses together. You don't want just a glob of ricotta on the bottom and tons of mozzarella on top, because then you'll end up having those kinds of layers.
Yeah, it's nice to make like a cheese spread.
Yes.
And I'm kind of mashing down with the spoon at times to break up that ricotta. Depends on your ricotta, how it breaks up. But ours breaks up like that. That looks pretty mixed, doesn't it?
That does look pretty mixed. Now, if your ricotta is super hard and it's not breaking up, you can always add a little bit more olive oil.
Awesome.
All right.
Cheese layer
done.
or cheese step done.
We are assembling our lasagna and we're putting the toppings on. Okay?
You can do this so many different ways. We've come up with a way that we like. Try it that way and then get creative later on. We have our toppings over here, so those are going to be off to the side. We have our cheese mixture and we have our sauce. So we're just going to line the bottom with just a little bit of sauce, a light little layer of sauce. That way nothing sticks and you get that yummy flavor going. It smells so good.
So basically the pattern for assembling our lasagna is sauce, noodle, cheese.
Sauce, noodle, cheese. Sauce, noodle, cheese. We're using, you see your recipe, it says the no-bake lasagna noodles. This is one of the best inventions since no-bake lasagna noodles.
Sliced bread.
Or that. We've rolled out noodles from scratch. We love it. Don't get me wrong. It's amazing. But these save a lot of time. And they're really good. They slow dry them, so they're good stuff. You don't cook them or anything. You just put them in, and the liquids from your ingredients cook them with the heat.
The other type of noodles, you would have to boil them for, I think it's like 5 minutes, and then put them on. But with this, you're just going to stack it in. Now, because of our pan, we can only do 3.
See that?
Across. 3. But your pan, you may be able to fit more. It just kind of depends.
Yeah, if you have a little bit of room, don't worry about like breaking noodles and all that. But if you have a lot of room, do more than 3. Fit them in there.
Yeah.
All right?
All right, then we're going to do cheese.
Okay. Now, I've seen recipes where people just start spreading this cheese with their spoon like it's peanut butter or jelly. Is that a good example? It doesn't work.
It doesn't work?
I don't. It makes things too messy. So I like to just use my fingers and kind of move it around, break it up into little pieces.
I find that very easy. And it's okay to get your fingers dirty while you're cooking as long as your fingers were clean to begin with.
Yeah, which they should be if you're cooking.
Yes. So after he's done spreading the cheese, we're going to add some more sauce and then more noodles and then more cheese and then more sauce. You know, you get it. top layer doesn't have that big layer of cheese, we're not gonna worry about putting too much sauce. So we're gonna put some noodles.
But it's important on the very top layer to have sauce coating the whole thing. So save enough sauce for your top.
Ready?
Save the sauce for the, that doesn't rhyme. Save the sauce, save enough sauce for the tops of your lasagna, otherwise it'll dry out. Does that sound good?
Sure. All right, so we're gonna spread this around.
Ready?
Yep, we are ready.
1 cup of mozzarella.
Yeah, you kind of have to look to see where you're
Yeah,
putting
look
it.
at what you're doing when you're making lasagna. I'm just fancy, and I've done this like 3 times, so I know what's going on a little bit, like this much.
And then our Parmesan.
Yeah, you can buy Parmesan already grated, or you can grate it yourself. We put about a half a cup of Parmesan.
We're gonna put about a half a cup. Just trust us that what we're doing is a half a cup.
That's a half a cup.
You would probably want to measure it, or it's also kind of how much you want on it. If you really like cheese, you want a little bit more Parmesan, you put a little bit more, but be careful, don't put too much, because again, Parmesan has lots of salt.
Look at that.
This
Whoa.
looks great.
That
See?
looks beautiful.
Awesome. So, our oven, we've preheated it to 375. We're gonna cook this covered with foil.
Like this. Ooh, blammo. And you want to kind of lightly cover it, especially if it's tall like that, because you don't want all the cheese
to melt
to
to
stick.
the,
Yeah.
So you're gonna cook it covered for 45 minutes, then take the cover off and cook it for 5 more minutes, and then it's done.
That's
it's ready.
it. But let it sit for like 5 to 10 minutes after you cook
cool.
it, because it's like lasagna, lava lasagna? Lasagna lava.
We like
it's
to
really
say that a
hot.
lot when things are hot.
Yeah.
You don't want to bite into a ridiculously hot piece of lasagna because you will burn it.
And I think it's easier to cut it and keep it together if it's cooled off a little bit. If it's super hot, it's just sort of melty, slippery everywhere. It's ready.
It's ready. I don't know if you can see,
Oh,
but
yeah.
the noodles have expanded.
Kind of filled all those little areas that we weren't filling. And if you like the cheese a little browned, you can either leave it in for another 5 minutes or just turn the broiler on real quick. You know how to do that stuff, so we'll let you decide. But we like it just kind of melty, and we can't wait to dig into this.
We're having it for dinner, so
So excited.
we're excited about it. It's going to feed quite a few of us.
And remember, try to make your own, make it this way, and then start playing with it. Add whatever you want, take away whatever you want. This is a good starter. This is how we love it all the time, so we like it like that. But sometimes we throw some other stuff in, like this, or like that.
Just make it your own. We hope you enjoy making this, and we'll see you next
We had
time.
so much fun. This was awesome.
Bye.
Bye. Badu badu doo badu wait badu badu doom. Okay. Badu badi doom badu bop badu bop badu bop badu bidi doom badu bop.
You're supposed to keep on doing it. Don't stop.
For how long? That's hard. Badu bidi doom badu bop badu bop badu bop badu badi doom badu bop badu bop badu bop. Ba-do-ba-dee-dum, ba-do-bop, 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 ba-do-ba-dee-dum. Did I go where?
You went up.
Like this?
No,
Oh.
you're
I
you were on
wanted
one note.
because
and
you went high,
up.
so I went with you.
You're not supposed to go.
Ba-do-ba-dee-dum.